Hello everyone, before we get into this video, I want to let everyone know this is a spoiler video. If you have not seen any of the Guardians movies or Marvel movies in general, especially the holiday special, do not watch this video if you do not want to be spoiled. I will be actively talking about spoilers in the holiday special and in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer, so if you don't want to know anything, do not watch this video. You can go watch one of my other videos. It would be greatly appreciated. I don't want to ruin your experience. Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video, and today I'm actually going to do a bit of a speculation video today, because there's been something that a lot of people have been talking about as of recently in the community, and I actually wanted to give my thoughts on the particular topic, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I might just say, looks phenomenal. Like, honestly, this trailer, and I'm going to mostly be referring to the trailer throughout this video, gave me chills. It's so emotional, and I'm just so excited for this movie. Like, this is going to be, I think, the magnum opus of the franchise, and I hope it's just amazing. But that's not what we're here for. In this video, I wanted to discuss who's going to die in Guardians 3. Because we already know that someone is going to die. James Gunn himself came out and said, hey, this is the last time you are going to see all of these characters together. So either they're all splitting up or someone's dying. And let's just say this trailer heavily leans into the fact that someone is probably going to die. But who is the character going to be? That is what we're going to discuss today, because I have a couple different thoughts that I think maybe some people haven't thought about, or at least I haven't seen people talk about. So I'm going to discuss those possible options today, and I'm just going to give you my proper speculation of what I think is going to happen in this movie. But before I talk about the characters I think might die in this movie, I want to quickly go over the characters I think will not die. 100%. Because I think there are a couple characters that we can kind of rule out just from either previous films or just in general no real evidence supporting it. And those characters are Gamora, Nebula, and Groot. I don't think any of these characters are going to die for very simple reasons, and I will discuss them really quick with you. Number one, Gamora. I don't think they'll kill Gamora just for the sheer fact of she has already died in the MCU. She already had that big emotional moment where she passed on. Granted, she did come back, but it's not the Gamora we know. It is a past version of Gamora that is in our main timeline. I think if they were to do it again, it wouldn't be as impactful, and I think a big part of this movie is going to be them trying to find Gamora again, and I just don't think they'd end the film on another Gamora death, because I just don't think it would work. There is some evidence to imply that maybe she would. There's a scene that I will be referring to multiple times throughout this video, where is Quill just breaking down in front of a desk and just full-on crying. It could be Gamora, but I'm not putting any of my money on it just for the sheer fact of it's just such a maybe, and honestly, I just don't see it happening. Then also Nebula. I don't think Nebula's gonna die. She very much had like an end to her arc in Endgame where she actually killed her past self, a reflection of everything she hated and everything she just disliked about herself. And it was a really good character moment, and I just don't see them killing her, especially after such a great arc she's had from being this villain to a good guy. I just don't see it happening. It could happen as like a last-minute effort maybe to stop the High Evolutionary, which will be the villain of the movie, but I just really don't see it happening. I think, honestly, she will become the leader of the Guardians by the end of the movie. And then Groot, I'm going to use the same logic I gave with Gamora. Groot already died. Groot died in the very first Guardians movie. Granted, there is a new Groot now, which isn't technically Groot if you do your research. It's actually Groot's son, technically. But I just don't think Groot's gonna die, just for the fact that they already killed him, and Groot just brings so many people in. Like, he's such a fan favorite, and I know Marvel's getting a little better when it comes to killing fan favorites, but I just don't see it happening, honestly. I don't think there's a whole lot of evidence to support he will die, so I just don't think he will, honestly. So moving on from those picks, I'm actually gonna start with Mantis, because I think Mantis has the least amount of evidence supporting her death in this movie, but it is still, I think, worth noting, because, like, I don't know, I just feel like no one's talking about this, even though Marvel has been known to do this in the past, which is edit in fake footage for their movies. If you don't know, when around Infinity War was coming out, they actually made fake footage to promote their movie so it wouldn't give away the main plot. This happened a couple times when Endgame and Infinity War were both coming out, and it came to nothing. So I think it's fair to say on a third film in a franchise, they'd want to do that again. because obviously they're not going to want to spoil their big finale in the trailer. It's just not a smart idea. And for this evidence, I'm actually going to look back at that scene with Quill. Quill is full on breaking down in this scene. And I think there's a couple reasons for this, and I think it's just because someone's gonna die that has an extremely good relationship with Quill, who is extremely important to Quill, and I know you could say, well, that would be all of them, that's very vague. Not technically true. Quill has some relationships with certain Guardians that are way better than certain other characters. As an example, Quill is gonna have more of a reaction to someone like Gamora dying than Nebula, because Gamora is his love. Nebula is not. He will cry, but he's not going to full-on break down like in this shot in the trailer. It's just not going to happen. But I think Mantis could actually fit this bill because of new information in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. If you have not seen the special, I guess this is spoilers, but it is revealed that Mantis is actually Quill's brother. Mantis is the daughter of Ego, of one of his children that he just kept because she was powerful and useful, and in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, this is revealed to Quill. Assuming that there's going to be a time jump in this movie, I think it's pretty fair to say that Quill and Mantis will have a better relationship going into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. After knowing that information, they will probably bond a lot more. And who knows, by the time Guardians 3 runs around, he might be so attached to her that this is the reaction he would give if she unfortunately passed away. I think it's not as concrete evidence, but I still think that it is there, and the only reason I think people would disagree with me is that in that same sort of sequence of events, there's a very similar scene where Mantis is crying over this tape. But like I said earlier with the misdirection in most Marvel trailers, this can very easily be a misdirect, and the character that they're pointing at dying in the trailer might not even die at all, and it might be Mantis. It's worth noting. I don't think it will happen, but it is worth noting. Another thing going against Mantis dying is the fact that she doesn't really have a whole lot of development. We have not seen a lot of Mantis, and I don't think that Marvel's gonna kill off a character that's just kind of so new in everyone's mind, especially on a team like the Guardians of the Galaxy in their last movie. In the last movie, you're probably going to want to kill one of the main ones to get the biggest emotional reaction, and I just don't see Mantis fitting that bill, unfortunately, even though we all love her. The next character I want to go to is actually Quill. I want to go to Peter Quill, Star-Lord, whatever you want to call him. Let's talk about Quill. Now, there is one shot in this trailer where Quill is actually being carried by Nebula in a certain scene, so this could kind of point towards his demise, but here's the thing. They're not going to show that in the trailer. 100% they are not going to show that in the trailer. This is a very clear misdirect, and honestly, just look at the shot too. It's framed in a way that kind of makes it as a joke, like Rocket sipping on a drink. I don't think this would be Star-Lord's death. I just don't think it is. More likely, I think he just got injured in a fight, and Nebula is carrying him out. That is what I think. But does that rule off the possibility of Star-Lord dying? Not really. I still think that there is a chance, just for the sheer fact that Star-Lord is the leader of the Guardians, so this could be a way for the plot of them showing how powerful the High Evolutionary is, and maybe he takes out Star-Lord maybe halfway through the film, and they're kind of just editing in Chris Pratt. I don't see this happening just because Chris Pratt is such a big name in Hollywood and in Marvel right now. They're probably going to want to keep him around for Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty, but it's worth noting that this would be, I think, something James Gunn would go for. Now let's move on to the character I think everyone has on their minds to be most likely to die, and that is unfortunately Rocket. A lot of people think Rocket's gonna die in this movie for the sheer fact of how much they emphasize it in the trailer. I'll show a couple clips here of just him. They just make it so painfully obvious is that they are heavily implying that Rocket is going to die.
Pete, I'm done running.
And I have one problem with this because why would they make that so known in the trailer? It just doesn't seem like something Marvel would do, when characters die, in Endgame, they didn't show the Iron Man scene where he's snapping everyone away. They didn't show that. So I think it's really unlikely that they're actually going to show that heavily a character dying. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I think this is a misdirect, and I actually don't think it will be Rocket. It could be Rocket. There's a very high chance that it could be, considering that this movie is actually mostly going to be revolving around his character and him getting more development. but I just don't see it happening. It just seems very obvious, and if it is going to happen, all the scenes in the trailer, it's not going to be any of those scenes. Can I just say, though, that one scene of Rocket, like, dying on the ground, honest to God, this is one of my favorite scenes, probably in Marvel right now. It's so emotionally heartbreaking, and I'm going to be completely honest, when I saw this for the first time, I genuinely teared up. Like, I got so incredibly sad from this line.
Fly away together. One last time. Into the forever and beautiful sky.
Another thing we have to take into account is that this movie, like I said before, is going to heavily focus around Rocket in multiple regards. The villain, the High Evolutionary, is going to be directly involved with the character of Rocket. If you don't know, the High Evolutionary is heavily speculated to be Rocket's creator. The guy who made him the person that he is today, or the raccoon. He's not a raccoon. It's actually going to be revealed probably in the movie that he's not a raccoon, and some sort of failed genetic experiment, which is what the High Evolutionary is all about. And if you don't know who this character is, this is a mad scientist who's devoted his entire life to creating the perfect organism, and by doing this, has just went and conducted multiple experiments with so many different life forms on this path of finding the perfect life form. And we can also kind of tell this because in the trailer, the Guardians of the Galaxy in the beginning go to this planet where it's just anthropomorphic animals existing like how Earth would work. And in the comics, this is actually a breed of people directly made by the High Evolutionary. So I think it's fair to say that the High Evolutionary is going to have a really prominent role in Rocket's journey throughout the movie. And I'm just saying right now, it might happen where Rocket sacrifices himself to kill him, but also takes his own life in the process to save the Guardians, is a very likely scenario. A lot of the shots, though, in the trailer, we do have to take in note, though, with Rocket, are past scenes. This is very easy to tell, I think, but a lot of people haven't been, noticing it. He's very clearly younger in certain scenes if you slow it down and actually take a look at it, So I think that all the scenes they're using in the trailer are mostly going to be scenes where he is younger. Even that one scene where he's dying on the ground is probably going to be a scene where he's young and he's imprisoned with his girlfriend, Lila, who's actually also going to be in this movie. And now let's go back to that scene with Quill. What do we know from this scene? We know that this is going to be someone that's extremely close to Quill. And honestly, I think that this very easily could be Rocket. Look at Rocket and Quill's relationship throughout the movies. They went from just not really liking each other at all in Guardians 2, just fully accepting one another, not fighting, and just acting like a family. We cannot forget that arc in that movie where he accepts Quill for what he is, and Quill becomes more understanding of Rocket in general. These two characters have such a rich history together, and especially considering that Rocket was the first one to actually catch Quill too, I would say that they have probably gained the most trust with one another. And then we talk about our last Guardian, ending it off here with Drax the Destroyer. Now listen, we all love Drax. We love Drax. He's the goofball that just does whatever he wants. We love Drax. But I honest to God think that Drax is the most likely to die, in my opinion. And the first thing I actually want to look at before I go into the super obvious stuff that everyone is pointing out, let's go back to that scene with Quill. Quill probably wouldn't be crying that much over Drax, honestly. They have a good relationship, but I don't think they have that great of a relationship. But look at Mantis. Mantis in this scene, if it's not a Mr. X scene, she is full on crying almost just as much as Quill is, and Mantis is extremely kind of inept when it comes to emotion. So who out of the Guardians could we pick out to be this person who she's reacting to the most of just dying on this table? And if you guessed it, I think it's Drax, honestly. Drax and Mantis have an extremely close relationship in these movies, from the second film where Drax just told her everything about his home life and his family, to even Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special where they both went out of their way to help Quill. They have a very close connection, and I think this could very much easily lead into the fact that Drax is going to die and she's going to react the most because she had the best relationship with Drax. And this scene could just be kind of poking fun, or not even poking fun at the fact that this might happen. This is a real possibility we should take into account, is Drax doesn't get a whole lot of screen time compared to the other Guardians. We all love him, but he is the goofball. He is sort of like the comic relief, even though in the comics he's way more important. But in the movies, he's just not as important as the other Guardians. And I think especially for this movie where it's mostly going to be focused on Rocket, I definitely think that Drax dying to bring the team together is a real possibility that we do need to be understanding that this could happen. And then we have to look at the obvious shots in the trailer where Drax is has bullet wounds. There's very clearly a shot where Gamora is holding up Drax in some sort of prison, and he does not look right. He's got a hole in his chest. It's very obvious in that scene, I think. I think that was a very big misdirect too. I don't think that's going to be the scene where he dies, but I still think that it's kind of poking at that idea that he could be the one to go. And I think in general, if you look at Drax from an emotional point of view with the audience, I think a lot of people would be extremely devastated if Drax dies. Like I said, he's just comic relief, But everyone loves him because he's funny and gentle when he needs to be, at least. Let's not forget some certain scenes. But he's just the goofball that everyone likes. So I think that killing Drax, showing maybe he dies to the High Evolutionary, showing off his power and showing that he is a threat, and he's going to do whatever he can to get through to maybe Rocket or Lila, or maybe he's just get out of my way sort of thing. But taking this into account and taking all of my evidence that I've put together in this video, I think that the most likely people to die right now are Drax, Rocket, and maybe Quill. I'm more leaning towards Drax just because I just think Rocket's too obvious. I know everyone's saying it, but it's too obvious, guys. If he does die, he's not going to be in any of those scenes where everyone's thinking he's going to die. I just don't think it's going to happen. I really think it's going to be Drax. Of course, this is all just speculation though, so if you have your own theories, I would like to hear them in the comments, because this is actually something I'm really passionate about, and I want to hear what other people have to say about it. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe down below if you like what you saw here and you want to watch more speculation videos in the future, especially about this movie. I hope you have yourself a great day. See ya.